Welcome, everyone. This is a great, great day. I'm Sharon Bulova, and the proud chairman of the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors.
All right.
And it is my privilege to welcome you to the most significant transportation project in the history of Fairfax County and the Commonwealth of Virginia. That's an applause on it. The Silver Line project has spanned well over 20 years across numerous administrations, elected officials, and community leaders. Most and many who are here today, all of who have stepped up to the plate when needed to proffer their vision and to address the challenges that needed to be resolved to make today happen. Major projects like the Silver Line Metro extension take time. Success requires commitment, continuity, and dogged persistence. Individuals who fought hard to make this project happen often did so knowing that another person would likely be the one to cut the ribbon in the end. As we prepare to cut the ribbon today, many of us who are here today may recall the many heated controversies and the near-death experiences that made up the exciting Silver Line saga. Someday someone will write a book. What kind of technology, Metro, light rail, BRT, maglev? Should the new line loop through Tysons? How could such a large project be funded? 2 special tax districts comprised of landowners along the corridor were established and then were able to survive legal challenges. Management of the project and the selection of the construction team were hotly debated. Would the federal government contribute? The larger project was broken in 2 phases, and even then, Governor at the time, Tim Kaine, had to perform CPR on phase 1 when the FTA decided not to participate. And finally, there was, wait, can't we redesign it and build it underground? When I think of both the Silver Line and the redevelopment of Tysons, I think of a torch being passed from one player to another. If someone drops the ball or the torch, everything can and will unravel. And so thank you to everyone who did not drop the ball. Just to name a few, and you'll hear other names mentioned. First of all, Senator Tim Kaine, who was then the governor, U.S. Senators John and then Mark Warner, Congressman, former Chairman Jerry Connolly, Jim Moran, Frank Wolf, former Chairman and Secretary of the Commonwealth Kate Hanley, Tom Davis in his roles as Chairman and then member of MWA, the MWA Board, and as member of U.S. Congress, my colleagues on the Board of Supervisors, especially Linda Smith, John Faust, and Kathy Hudgins, who all represent part of the Dulles Corridor. We want to thank former Commonwealth Transportation Secretaries Martinez, Wybera, Whit Clement, John Milliken, Pierce Homer, and Sean Connaughton, former U.S. Transportation Secretaries Mary Peters, who participated in the CPR, and Ray LaHood, and our county executives, Tony Griffin and Ed Long, and then lastly, in our Office of Transportation, people who did the real technical work, Shiva Pant, Ho Chang, Kathy Ichter, Tom Bishadny, Mark Canali, and thank you to Walter and Dan Alcorn from the community who played significant roles in making the Silver Line happen. This is the Silver Line is not just a transportation project. It is a major transformational economic development initiative. As a result of this Fairfax County's decision to wind the Silver Line through Tysons, this part of Fairfax is realizing our vision for a vibrant, mixed-use urban downtown. Our work is not done, and I am looking forward to completion of Phase 2 and the Silver Line project, which will connect the metro system all the way to Dulles Airport and into Loudoun County. And so with that, I am pleased to introduce the Metro Transit Police, who will begin our ceremony with a presentation of the colors. Will all please rise?
Good morning, everyone. And thank you, Sharon. As chair of the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors, your unyielding support has ensured that Silver Line meets the needs of today's residents while laying the groundwork for future growth. Thank you all for joining us this morning. At Metro, we start all of our meetings with a safety contact. So I'd like to remind you to be cautious in the heat today and help yourself to the bottled water available for anyone who wants it. Now, welcome aboard the Silver Line. It's time to ride. This new rail connection links the entire region, from here in Reston through Tysons in Washington, D.C., and out to Largo, Maryland. Starting today, riders can board the Silver Line to reach new opportunities in dining, entertainment, living, and shopping. And talented workers can take the train to jobs in Virginia's largest economic hubs. For decades, leaders in Virginia and Fairfax County, many of whom are here today with us, had a vision for this rail line and what it could mean for the future of their communities. They envisioned high-density, walkable, bikeable, and transit-friendly communities. And the Silver Line was the keystone in their plan. Today, the Silver Line is here. Live in Reston and have tickets to a concert at the Verizon Center. The Silver Line will take you there. Looking for a job in Tysons? The Silver Line will take you there. Want to take your family to a Nationals game or head out to FedEx Field in the fall? The Silver Line will take you there. By the end of the first year, we expect 25,000 people traveling each day through one of the 5 new Silver Line stations. Across the toll road, a state-of-the-art transit facility, the result of a private-public partnership between Fairfax County and Comstock, provides a link to the Silver Line with thousands of public parking spaces, a kiss-and-ride lot, bus terminal, and the county's first secure bicycle locker room. We are excited about today's grand opening and the future of the Silver Line that will take us to Dulles Airport and beyond. But the Silver Line will be the last expansion project for Metro until we can advance the projects in our Momentum strategic plan. Securing funding for Momentum is critical if we want to resolve issues like the bottleneck at the Roslyn Tunnel. Many of you are champions for Momentum, and I know together we will continue to build a Metro system that connects and strengthens the region. Before we go much further in the program, I'd like to first take some time to recognize our distinguished guests here today, starting with our first guest, who you'll hear from shortly. And I'll go through the list of all the speakers today and recognize some other folks, as Sharon did, and then turn it over to the speakers for remarks. First, U.S. Department of Transportation Secretary Anthony Foxx. You were a leader for public transit in Charlotte, and it's clear you've brought that same passion to Washington, D.C. Governor Terry McAuliffe. As Governor of Virginia, you have already demonstrated leadership in transportation and great support for the Silver Line and the future of Metro. Thank you. Mayor Vincent Gray, your participation today and your support of the Silver Line expansion demonstrates the regional impact of this new line. Congressman Jerry Connolly from Virginia's 11th District, we would not be here today were it not for your extraordinary advocacy and support both as a congressman and as the former chair of the Fairfax County Board. Thank you. Congressman Frank Wolf, representing Virginia's 10th District, your oversight of the Silver Line project was critical to keeping it moving forward, and I really enjoy his support for Metro. Congressman Jim Moran from the 8th District, another strong supporter of Metro and transit in Virginia. Thank you again, Congressman Moran. Virginia Delegate Ken Plum, we appreciate your dedication and support in Richmond, as well as your leadership with the Dulles Corridor Rail Association. Tom Davis, member of the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority Board of Directors, your tireless support and steady hand both at the Airports Authority and as a former congressman helped to bring this project to completion. Tom Downs, chairman of the WMATA Board of Directors. As the leader of Metro's board, your focus on the region is profoundly important to our riders and our economy. And Kathy Hudgins, also from the WMATA Board of Directors. We're here in Reston, in your backyard, where you've brought this forward-thinking investment and spurred economic growth, not only for today's customers, but for future riders. We are here today as a result of many, many, many people working together and ironing out their differences in pursuit of the common good. Let me take a moment to thank all of the elected officials here today. We appreciate your support over the years, and would all current and former elected officials in the audience please stand up and let's give them a round of applause. Certainly, this tent is not big enough to thank all who have contributed, but let me just recognize the Airports Authority Board of Directors, including Chairman Frank Connor, Airports Authority President and CEO, and our good friend, Jack Potter. The WMATA Board of Directors. Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton. U.S. DOT Undersecretary for Policy Peter Rogoff and Acting FT Administrator Therese McMillan. National Transportation Safety Board Chair Chris Hart and NTSB Board Member Earl Wiener. Virginia Secretary of Transportation Aubrey Lane and Virginia DRPT Director Jennifer Mitchell. Members of the Virginia General Assembly. Members of the Fairfax County and Loudoun County Board of Supervisors. Former Virginia Governors Chuck Robb, George Allen, and Jim Gilmore. Former Virginia Secretaries of Transportation Pierce Homer and John Milliken. Former U.S. DOT Deputy Secretary John Picari. Former Fairfax County Board of Supervisors Chair and WMATA Board Chair Kate Hanley. Former Fairfax County Board of Supervisors member and WMATA Board Chair Joe Alexander. Bechtel President and CEO Bill Dudley. And Kawasaki Railcar CEO Hiroji Iwasaki. There are also a few others who could not be with us today at the ceremony, but were instrumental in making this Silver Line a reality. U.S. Senators Mark Warner, Tim Kaine, and John Warner. And I know our Maryland contingent very much wanted to be here, including Governor O'Malley, Lieutenant Governor Brown, and members of the Maryland delegation. Former U.S. DOT Secretary Mary Peters, former Virginia Governors Gerald Baliles, Linwood Holton, and Bob McDonald, Speaker of the Virginia House of Delegates William Howell, Chairman of the Loudoun County Board of Supervisors Scott York, and the many, many, many staff members from the Airports Authority, Metro, and Fairfax County who got us all here today. Secretary Foxx, please join us for your remarks.
Good morning, everyone. It's an exciting day not only for Virginia but for the greater D.C. area as well as for America. Richard, I want to thank you for introducing me and for your great work on this project. Without you, we wouldn't be here. And I also want to add my thanks to several people. I have no one original to thank at this point, but I'll thank them anyway. I'm joined today by Peter Rogoff, our acting Undersecretary for Policy. Our acting FTA Administrator, Therese McMillan, who was just nominated to be our Transit Administrator in full. Thank you, Therese, for being here. To Governor McAuliffe, your great leadership. I know that the acronym for Virginia is VA, and I think he's convinced me that that stands for vacuum because he wants to suck up all the money from DOT and get it done. He's told me that. That's what he said. And to the incredible leadership team here, I want to say thank you very much. Senators Warner and Kaine, Congressman Connolly, Wolf, and Moran, who stayed with this project for a very long time. To the state and local leaders, thank you. Now, I'm going to depart a little bit from what I was supposed to say because something that your Fairfax County chairwoman said struck me. You know, back in medieval times, there were people who were charged with building cathedrals. And they started building those cathedrals with no idea what the cathedral would look like when it was actually done. In some cases, there were people who were just charged with putting a stone in one place, and their contribution to that cathedral was putting a stone in place. And over generations, eventually these cathedrals became majestic structures that we now recognize in history. And as folks stood up just a minute ago who've been working on this project, some of them not even elected anymore or in public office anymore, what I'm reminded of is that the work of transportation is really the work of generations. And if we're not putting those cornerstones in place as a nation, we're not building for the generations that come after us. And today is a time to celebrate the voices of yes being stronger than the voices of no and getting something done. One of the great things about transportation is that it is not partisan. And so when I say the voices of yes, I'm talking about Republican voices and Democratic voices. It was a Bush administration and a Secretary Peters that were involved in the planning process of this project. It was an Obama administration and Secretary Ray LaHood, himself a Republican, who worked so hard to get us to today. And this is an example of what we need to see more of in our country. Unfortunately, when I come to a day like this and get a chance to celebrate a great achievement that's taken years and years and years to get done, I'm reminded of what's not getting done in our country today as Congress now waits again to deal with the fact that we've got a shortfall in our Highway Trust Fund, 20% of which goes to support our transit projects around the country. Around our country, in fact, there are at least 50 more projects that would create good jobs and provide relief from traffic jams and build a network that can move 100 million people by 2050, which is what we're going to need. And unfortunately, these projects are still waiting on funding. That's why the Obama administration put forward a bill called the Grow America Act. You could also call it Grow Virginia, or Grow DC, or Grow Maryland, or Grow this general area. It would increase transit funding by 70%, providing $11 billion over 4 years. It would give state and local leaders the support they need to get more projects like the Silver Line done all across the country. And the bipartisan support for this project shows us that growing our investment in our transportation system in America is possible. It doesn't have to be so hard. When I say grow America, grow Virginia, look at the $900 billion investment the federal government made here. I've already heard stories of greater than $1 billion of private sector investment along the line. It's a pretty good return on investment. And then you think about the number of choices that people will now have to get around this corridor, coming in or going out, and the wonderful amenities that will come as a result. This is a win for America, and we need more wins like it. So I want to applaud you for sticking with this project, even in the hardest of times. And I want you to remember the feeling you have today, because we need many more feelings like this across America. Thank you very much. It's great to be with you.
Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Terry McAuliffe, and I am the governor of the great Commonwealth of Virginia. And I love every day being governor, but I got to tell you, this is really a special day for me. We just rode the car over from Tyson's. It was smooth. It was right on time. It was perfect. And soon we'll be all on it. And I just want to thank everybody who was involved. I think Ken Plum, it was you and Patty Nickerson 17 years ago with the Dulles Corridor Rail Association. People were talking about doing other things. You talked about how we needed to do rail. So I want to thank everybody involved. Now, we've thanked everybody, but the one folks we have not thanked, most importantly, is all of you who have helped pay for this. So give yourselves a great round of applause. This is your Metro. And Secretary Foxx and I are working closely, so you actually pay a little bit less and we get a little bit more. Give the Secretary another great round of applause, folks. Virginia, sir, 50 states, one that matters, the Commonwealth of Virginia. Anybody argue with that in this audience? We love the district, though, too, Mr. Mayor. It's a good feeder organization for the Commonwealth to get jobs for you. Yeah, just teasing. Not really, but listen. And then there's Maryland. My goodness, you got to be kidding me. Okay. I do want to thank WMATA, and the entire Commonwealth who literally have been working on this project for the last 10 years. This really is something special. Nowhere else in America can they be doing what we're doing here today in Virginia. I want to thank Fairfax and Loudoun counties who stepped up to the plate by committing major local funding. This would not have happened without those two counties. So let's hear it for Fairfax and Loudoun County. You know, when I ran for governor, I talked about transportation. I talked about a lot of things a lot, but I really talked about transportation a lot. And I just want you to know, since I've been in office, working with the secretary and everybody else, we are committed to unlocking this region. That's why we've been so involved in helping make sure this came to fruition today. As you know, I've just announced that we are going to add new lanes outside of the Beltway on 66, so we can open up that corridor 66. We need more mobility. We're going to continue to invest. But we just announced we're going to put another $1 billion into Northern Virginia over the next 6 years, because I understand the economic vitality that we have here. And I ride on 95 now give that a round of applause, $1 billion. I'm on 95 now a couple times a week. And you're right, it is a parking lot. And we've got to open that up. And by the end of this year, the express lanes will now go all the way from Tyson's Corner down to Stafford. That'll be a game changer for us. We're going to continue to invest in new P3. The 66 road project alone is $2 to $3 billion of new investment in the region. I'm all for making sure that we need to do what we can on the Columbia Pike streetcar, and I just added $65 million. The more cars we can get off the road and into mass transit and light rail is something that we ought to be doing. Now, I'm also just announcing we're adding lanes on 64 because, folks, I get it. Tourism is our second biggest asset in the Commonwealth of Virginia, behind agriculture and forestry. But we got to unlock the entire Commonwealth to be successful. Right now, where Dorothy and I have lived for 21 years, you go from McLean down 95, 495, 95 onto 64, trying to get to the beach for the weekend. It's an absolute parking lot. 5 kids, 2 dogs, a wife, all of them barking about the traffic. I get it. So we got to unlock that, and that's why we're adding lanes to 64 to make the whole Commonwealth open to everybody, which is so important. And I'm proud to say that we led the way to make sure that we were the first jurisdiction to commit the new funding for the new 8-car trains so that when these rail cars come up, they're not all full. We got room for everybody to get on the Metro. And I want to thank Mayor Gray, who came right in with $25 million. And my great friend, Governor O'Malley, who is not here today, but he has been very helpful on working with these projects. But when you think of the counties, the investment, the $400 million that is being generated through the tax district in Tyson's Corner for Phase 1, and another $330 million that is being generated by the tax district in Reston and Herndon for Phase 2. I appreciate the work of all the people who were involved. I do want the Secretary to know, and I want you all folks to pay attention, that we did bother him a lot several months ago. I kept incessantly calling him. The one thing when you're in politics a long time, you have everybody's cell phones, and I continued to bother the Secretary. But he led the effort, folks, to keep the costs down here and to keep the ridership costs down, because he gave us, as you know, a TIFIA loan of $1.9 billion, the largest in the history of the United States of America for this project. So I thank you, Mr. Secretary. And not to put too much pressure on him, but we do have about a $45 million Tiger grant for Richmond that they're going to announce next month. And then we have another one they're going to have in Hampton Roads. Should we not have that in the Commonwealth of Virginia? I am just trying to make the Secretary of Transportation look good, because when you invest in Virginia, folks, you look good because things happen here, Mr. Secretary. This is the biggest and largest and most complicated infrastructure project, not only in the United States of America, but in the globe. A $5.6 billion project, very complicated. And I do want to thank all the folks who worked hard. I see my good friend Jack Potter. We had some interesting meetings, but listen, this was not an easy thing to do. But you know what, folks? We are standing here today with this complicated project. It is now complete. So I want to thank all the engineers and Bechtel and everybody else. Give them a great round of applause for the work that they have done. And our key concern was always to make sure that it was the most safe transportation system in America, and that's what we have done, and that's why everybody has worked so hard. Here we are on July 26th, having accomplished the goal. After this weekend Metro, think of this, folks, now more cars will run on the train now than any other time on the tracks in the history of the Metro. Over 250,000 Metro rail trips will be shortened by this improved service. We will see more frequent weekend service for over 40% of the Metro riders. And finally, Prince William, Loudoun, and Fairfax have taken dramatic steps to improve their bus connectivity to the Silver Line. So I want to thank also those other communities who have helped us. Design is already underway for Phase 2, and we are looking forward to start Phase 2 construction immediately. And I am just asking one thing about Phase 2. I want it completed by January 9th, 2018, the day before I leave office as governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Now, that's a little bit ahead of schedule, but Jack, can we do it? Yeah, he said yes. Okay, folks, as I'm riding back up from Richmond back to Northern Virginia, I'm going to be riding the Metro. But finally, folks, I thank all of you for all the great work that you have done. This is really a special day for us. This is what makes Virginia unique, the opportunity to open up for businesses to bring more employees in, for new businesses to come. As you all know, I just returned from China, where I was last week, and I was proud to announce that the single largest investment in the history of a Chinese company in the United States of America was made last week. Guess where that was made? It was made here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. $2 billion investment, 2,000 new jobs, environmentally clean, green paper products. This is just the beginning. There are now 65,000 more Virginians working today than when I became governor. And that's just an appetizer, folks. I'm just starting. But I am able to do this because of what we have here, the great folks in this room, the best transportation system in the globe. And next week when I go up and talk about Forbes giving Virginia the #1 state in America to do business, it's because we got it all. We got universities, we got the ocean, we got the mountains, we got the great workforce, and most importantly, we now have the greatest transportation system in the globe. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Well, good morning, everybody. I wish we could evoke more enthusiasm from the governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia. I'm delighted to be here with you all to join you in what is an absolutely wonderful occasion. I'm delighted to be joined by our Congresswoman, the most effective legislator in America without a vote, and we're going to end that one day, Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton. And I'm also delighted to be joined by two of our legislators in the District of Columbia, Councilmember Muriel Bowser, who also serves on the WMATA board. Councilmember Bowser, thank you very much for being here today. And Councilmember at Large, Councilmember Vincent Orange, who has served the city for a number of years and has served so well. Thank you very much for being here, Councilmember Orange. And sorry, the person who chairs our Transportation and Environment Committee on the Council of the District of Columbia, Councilmember Mary Chade. We've acknowledged, is there anybody in the audience yet who has not been acknowledged? I want to acknowledge some of those folks who've already been acknowledged, starting with the Secretary, Secretary Anthony Foxx, who was a mayor himself of Charlotte, North Carolina. And we know that when mayors take over running these agencies, they do very well because mayors know how to run organizations. Right, Mayor Foxx? Secretary Foxx, Mayor Foxx. Can we combine the titles and make it into one? And we want to thank you for your support. You've been a great friend of the District of Columbia in the short time that you've been here, and we really appreciate working with you. I also want to thank Rich Sarles, who has done a fantastic job. We all well remember when Rich took over the running of the Metro and the challenges that were faced, the safety issues that were I won't say insurmountable, because obviously they were surmountable. But Rich, you have done a fantastic job of leading Metro, and we are very proud of the work you have done and in helping us get here today. Thank you very much, Rich, for what you've done. Again, the enthusiastic, energetic governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, Terry McAuliffe, somebody who I've worked with now for almost 7 months. And Terry, it's wonderful to be able to work with you. Thank you for your leadership in the Commonwealth, and we are delighted to be able to join with you in partnership. Thank you so much, sir. And of course, we have other members of Congress who are here, Congressman Wolf, Congressman Moran, and of course, Jerry Conley, who too has been a great friend of the District of Columbia. We thank you very much for what you have done, Jerry, and what you will continue to do, I'm sure, on behalf of bringing democracy to the District of Columbia. We appreciate that very much. And I certainly cannot leave out our good friend Tom Davis. Tom Davis, when he was a congressman, worked as hard as he possibly could to bring a vote to the Congress of the United States on behalf of the District of Columbia, and now he continues to serve on the Metropolitan Washington Airport Authority and continues to serve this region as effectively as he possibly can. How about a big hand for Tom Davis? And Sharon Bolivar, who I've had a chance to work with during our time. She as the chairman, and having done a fantastic job working with me and our colleagues in Maryland. Sharon, thank you so much for your friendship and your partnership. And there's some projects that we won't even talk about today that we've worked on, and I really appreciate the support that you have provided. Thank you so much, Sharon. And of course, Kathy Hudgins, who served so effectively as the chairman of the WMATA board, and now our own homegrown chairman of WMATA, who now is serving with such effectiveness, Tom Downs. And of course, we have here today, too, our transportation director for the District of Columbia. You know, this is a great day. It's a great day to be able to be excited. It's a great day to be able to celebrate the accomplishments because we knew many years ago when this project started it was going to be a long-term project, and it's great to be able to celebrate these milestones as we experience them. For us, frankly, in the District of Columbia, it gives us yet another transportation option and helps to continue to facilitate the economic growth in the District of Columbia. For those who don't know, we now have close to 660,000 people. We've been using the number 647, but we're growing by at the rate of about 1,000 to 1,200 people a month. And we used that number a year ago, so if you do the math, you'll figure out we have close to 660,000 people who live in the District of Columbia now. By the way, that is larger than the state of Vermont, and that is larger than the state of Wyoming. Get the point, ladies and gentlemen? It's time for us to go from 50 to 51, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. It really is exciting to be able to be a part of the opening of the Silver Line. We have focused so much on job growth and economic development and transportation development in the District of Columbia, and this will continue to facilitate that. We too, like Governor McAuliffe, we've been working closely with China. In fact, I was glad to join with the governor and others to bring, with MWA, to bring the first direct line ever from China to the region, to the nation's capital, to Virginia, at Dulles Airport. That line, airline opened up on June 10th, and we are now bringing more people to this region from Beijing and other places in China to continue to support tourism in the District of Columbia and other places. We also know that the Silver Line will bring increasingly large numbers of people into the District of Columbia to be able to enjoy the burgeoning restaurants that we have in the city, the increasing opportunities for tourism, the increasing opportunities for entertainment, and frankly, for those of you who come into the District of Columbia, we invite you to do two things. Bring every nickel that you have and spend every nickel that you have in the District of Columbia while you are there to help support the continued growth and development of our city. You know, we are focusing, as I said, a lot on job growth, but we're also focusing on sustainability. We have what we think is one of the most aggressive sustainability plans in the nation. And a big part of that, frankly, is being able to reduce carbon emissions and to be able to move people around in a way, as the governor described, as others have described, in an efficient, clean way. And there is no better way to do that, ladies and gentlemen, than by using Metro. I can't wait until the Silver Line goes all the way out to Dulles, and we'll be able to ride it in a fashion that keeps our region clean and keeps us safe. So, General Manager Sarles, I want to thank you for your leadership. I want to thank all the other people up here. And let's come together at some point in the near future to be able to celebrate the opening of the line all the way out to Loudoun County and Dulles Airport. Thank you all very much.
Well, hallelujah, this day has come. After listening to Terry McAuliffe, I feel like I'm in a revival tent, don't you? It is really great after, in my case, 19 years of trying to get something really big done, to actually write it. And I think the formula is sort of a VP3. We needed a vision. We needed to be able to imagine that. I can tell you, when we began this 19 years ago, everybody said, rail to Dulles, forget it, it's dead. We tried it, it didn't work. There were not many believers. And helping people imagine it, visualize it, made all of the difference. It didn't solve all problems, but it made all of the difference. And then we needed to develop passion for that vision. And we had that. John Kennedy once said that failure is an orphan, success has many parents. There were many times in this project that we felt pretty orphaned. And it was, some of you, well, not any of us really remember the silent movie era, but there was this character, the Perils of Pauline. Poor Pauline was constantly being, captured by a villain and tied to the railroad tracks. And at the very last minute, when that train's coming forward, she's rescued by our hero. And that is the story of this project. We were sued. Some of the people who sued us are in this room. I won't name names, Ken Reed. Pat Harity. I won't name names. We had a tax district collapse, and then we had to resurrect it. And Governor Warner, now Senator Warner is not here, but he was on the phone in Richmond calling people saying, you better sign up for that tax district. He was actually in there helping us to resurrect it, and it worked. We, frankly, had 8 years of a Bush administration that was AC/DC on transit in general. And on this project, we had our debates, shall we say, and going through the environmental process and everything else. So one of the other P's was persistence. We had to be willing to push through that vision. We debated, we listened, we compromised, but we never lost sight of that vision, that this had to happen. And patience. We had to sometimes be patient. We also had to be impatient. But working together, we were able to prevail, and it is just such a gratifying thing, and it is transformative. I hope you will always remember being here today because of what this means. This isn't just a good thing for Northern Virginia, and that's why our colleagues from Maryland and D.C. are here today. They recognize with us, this is the integration of our region. We are in this together as a region. This links the most important corridor in the Commonwealth of Virginia, Terry, to the core. We are part of a region, and this is going to transform this corridor into something a lot more livable, a lot more environmentally friendly, a lot more commercially successful, and is going to make a difference for generations. So while we have thanked ourselves and thanked everybody pretty much in the room, let's also remember those who are unsung, who dedicated themselves to making this a reality. Our staffs, planners, environmentalists, people who didn't drop the ball, people who stayed with us, especially when times were tough. Because without those hundreds of people and their efforts and their belief and their commitments, today also would not be possible. God bless you all. Thank you very much.
I want to thank all of the people who were involved, most names who were not mentioned, but you know who you are. I want to thank my staff and the staff of all of the members that have been involved over the many years. I see George Allen's staff, Senator Warner's staff, and all of the staff members who have done, and the staff at UMTA and DOT who have done a tremendous job. I want to single out three people. Senator Warner. When the history is written, Senator Warner was there at that key moment, and John Warner who's not with us, but I want to publicly acknowledge. Secondly, I also want to acknowledge Mary Peters. UMTA had voted against this, said no. Mary Peters reversed. Very tough to do, to go against, but Mary Peters did it. She's in Arizona, but she should be remembered. And lastly, my former colleague, Ray LaHood, who served with me on appropriations. Ray, I think you ought to name a station after Ray. Ray saved this project when it was ready to go under. The Bible says that where there is no vision, the people perish. The people who have been involved in this project, they had a vision. If you recall, when Metro itself came out, there was a vision and many people opposed it. Had it not been for former Congressman Joel Broyhill and former Congressman Joe Fisher, Metro would have never been built. When the idea of I-66 came forward, if it had not been for a guy with vision like Jack Herity, I-66 would not have been built. Imagine where we would be today without it. And it took vision. Those of you who had the vision, I believe history will treat this project very, very well. It will be good for the region, good for the country, and good for everyone that lives here. God bless, and thanks everybody for the great job.
Tom Davis and I remember when Frank was chair of Transportation Appropriations, and he used that position to make sure that that money kept coming into Metro. And now that he's retiring, he really does deserve special applause. Frank, you've been just terrific. So the takeaway from today is that unless you're willing to invest in the future, all you're left with is memories of the past. You know, Anthony Foxx brought his young son, Patrick, is it? Zachary. That's right, my son's Patrick. Yeah, Zachary. Alfonso Lopez brought his and others, and that's a good thing, because this really is about them. It's about the world they're going to live in. You know, somebody said while we were back at Tyson's, boy, wouldn't it be nice to start all over again at about 7 years of age? The governor reflected upon it for a moment, and then he said, well, no, I think I'm going to stick with the hand I've been dealt today. I'm not sure I want to go through all that brought me here, but what a great time to be governor. And what a perfect governor for Virginia today. And so many states around the country are just struggling to reverse the outflow of jobs and the decline in revenue. Virginia's future is just as bright as could be. And all that has happened in the past and this is a state that's been steeped in history, but all that's happened in this part of the state really is just prologue to a future that will be so much brighter and prosperous and livable because you chose to make that investment. There was an infectious optimism. Now, Governor McAuliffe may define that infectious optimism. That's a wonderful thing. But it was also what drove this project. I look at young Bob Simon. Stand up, Bob, for a moment. Because Bob Simon started Reston, and I knew he was going to stand up. That was not an easy request, but he deserved to be recognized because he's always had that dream, a dream that became Reston, a dream that we would connect Reston and Western Fairfax and Loudoun into the core of the Washington metropolitan area in D.C. and on to Maryland, that we would all have this larger community that we would be proud to be part of. That's a dream. If you don't have dreams, though, you don't have much of a life. The same thing applies to communities as well as individuals. This is the fulfillment of a dream. You made it happen. Be proud. Congratulations and thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Delegate Ken Plum, and it's my honor to represent this Reston community in the Virginia House of Delegates, and along with the other colleagues from the House and the Senate who are here, we're pleased to be a part of this very important occasion. But today I'm going to speak to you as chair of the Dulles Corridor Rail Association. The governor made reference to the DCRA earlier, and I want to acknowledge also the president of the Dulles Corridor Rail Association, Patty Nickerson. Patty? Anybody associated with this project knows that if you've been in a meeting related to Dulles Rail in the last 15 years, Patty Nickerson was there. She was taking the notes. She was providing the information. She was a real spark plug. Because a part of the subplot we have to talk about in the success of this project is not simply the naysayers and the doubters, not the ups and the downs, but the question is, with all that, how does it turn out to be a successful project? And I would suggest to you, ladies and gentlemen, that the formula in part was in the support in the business and the broader community. So some of the unsung heroes that we don't hear about today are those people who, when the project got a headline, it was dead. The fax machines, and there were fax machines back in those days, started to work. The letters started, the guest columns started, the letters to the editor, all that kind of advocacy, all that kind of work, who said to the elected officials, it's safe to take a risk, who said to the bureaucrats, this is important to the community, and that work on the behalf of the current board of the Dulles Corridor Rail Association and all those people who were part of that board in the past, I think also deserves recognition for the success that has come about today. Not only did DCRA advocate on behalf of the project, but it was instrumental in coordinating an effort called Dulles Rail Now, and some of you here are probably part of the 25 or so organizations that we brought together to try to get some force behind moving the project forward. More recently, our coalition was called Loudon Rail Now, and those coalitions and efforts were successful in getting elected officials to say, okay, it's okay to take the risk. Yes, there are doubters, and many people who came to work on this project offered to us one of the uniqueness of it. And the uniqueness was that it was a project not simply being sold by bureaucrats, not sold by elected officials, but by the community at large. And that gave the strength, I would suggest to you, to making the project ultimately a successful one. On behalf of all those people who were involved with the Dulles Rail and its efforts over the past, I offer you a thank you. And for our community, we got something to celebrate. This is transformative. What a great day it is for us all. God bless you.
Ken, thank you very much. I'm Tom Davis, the chairman of the Rail Committee on MWA, the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority. I had no problem finding this place today. I stuck out my hand to make a left turn, and 5 politicians shook my hand. And I immediately, Terry, I don't know, where do you get the Red Bull? I was trying to look for his enthusiasm is contagious, and we really appreciate you being here today, Governor, and the support you have given us. On behalf of the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority, which has had the privilege of overseeing construction of the Silver Line project and will be overseeing it for Phase 2, thank you for being here today. Let me add to the statements made so far about what a great day this is for the Washington region. Today is a day that many of us have looked forward to for many years. Ever since the early 1960s, when the builders of Dulles Airport envisioned a future based on transportation, people have been talking about a rail link. Sharon, as you said, it had many bumps along the road, but I think working together in a united bipartisan fashion, those of us who believed in it have brought it home. They say victory has 1,000 fathers and defeat is an orphan. Well, we have 1,000 fathers. We've acknowledged many of them today. Our partners Commonwealth of Virginia, the U.S. Department of Transportation, and that TIFI alone has made all the difference in the world for Phase 2. Mr. Secretary, thank you very much. It will allow us to keep tolls steady for several years because at the end of the day, I think as the governor said, it's the toll users who are paying the bulk of this. It just made a huge difference. Fairfax County, Loudoun County, and of course our partner, WMATA, thank you very much. I want to just thank a few other people as well. Let me, our board members, our chairman, Rusty Connor, in front has been a steady hand of leadership through the board in our trials and tribulations. Rusty, thank you very much. We have our former chairman, Michael Curto, there at a difficult time in our board trying to reconstitute itself, just a steady hand as well. Other members here as well. Earl Adams, Warner Session, our vice chairman, Dickie Carter, Dan Elkhorn, a former board member, State Senator Bob Calhoun, a former board member, Ann Crossman, Denny Martyr, Mike O'Reilly, David Ralston, Ron Linton, Bill Kobe, Kenny Kling, and Greg Wolf. We had some other board members couldn't be with us today. Mame Riley did so much. She chaired this subcommittee. She passed away not to see this day, but she had a huge hand in bringing MWA to bring this thing to construction. We remember the legacy she has left here. And also Bill Hazel, former chairman of the authority. Former Governor Linwood Holton, also a former member of the authority, and former Secretary of Transportation Norm Mineta, also a former member of the authority. Let me just single out a few other people if I can. We talked about political will. There's a lot of us had political will. Some paid a price. Delegate Joe May, for the transportation bill you passed, lost his seat over it in the primary, but added $300 million to this project. Stand up, will you? Thank you very much. On our airport staff, Jack Potter, our CEO, Margaret McKeer, Lynn Hampton, a former CEO, and Jim Bennett, both had a strong hand in this. Pat Nowakowski, our former project executive director. Sam Carnegie, our project director for 10 years. Kevin Volbrecht, Nancy Shue, James Van Zee, Ralph Gilwald, Al Kolodny, our senior project manager. Marcia McAllister, our communications manager. Wayne Thiel, our contract administrator. Carl Rohr, our deputy project director. Gabby Daniel, our project controls. Luz Canfreezyhow, our finance director. The Jacobs Engineering project team. Shiva Pant, who worked with us and with Metro and with Fairfax County through its long history, had a lot to do with this. And our former director of the Virginia Department of Public Transportation Rails Division, Jenny Mitchell, as well. And let me thank the workers. They're the ones who really did the work on this. And let me, if I could, just single out 4 unions that worked on this: the Laborers International Union, the operators, plasters and cement workers, the iron workers, and the carpenters union. And Governor, you know, our continued friendships and working together with all of these groups, we're going to try to bring MY in to get this Phase 2 scheduled before you leave office. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Tom Downs. I'm the chairman of the Metro Board. I'd like to take a moment to recognize and have all of the current board members of the Metro Board please stand. I know that I don't need to say it, but the biggest challenge about a multi-state authority that also has a partnership with the federal government is to find a common agenda, to be able to compromise, to be able to work for the larger good. And I am immensely proud of this board's ability to come to difficult decisions in a timely fashion that is focused totally on the needs of the region. I also want to thank one board member in particular. I think all of the board wants to gratefully thank and commend the vision and leadership of our fellow board member, Kathy Hudgins. Who has watched over the Silver Line for years in her dual role as a WMATA board member and as a member of the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors. Kathy, we applaud your vision, leadership, and steadfast dedication to bringing the Silver Line to Virginia and the entire region. The Silver Line is the first major line extension on the Metrorail system since 1991. That's roughly a quarter of a century, and it illustrates how difficult it is to make funding investments going forward. And as the Secretary said, you have to continually invest in another generation. You have to make increments of change. While it's true that there are 5 new Silver Line stations in Fairfax County, this line, as a number of people have said, serves the entire region. It also serves 5 existing stations in Northern Virginia, 14 existing stations in the district, including Metro Center, Eastern Market, and Benning Road. There are 3 stations in Maryland, including Addison Road and Largo Town Center. When this train pulls out at noon, it's going to stop as a Silver Line train at every one of those stops, going and coming. The joint benefit of this investment is recognized explicitly by the district's and Maryland's commitment to be responsible for almost 2/3 of the operating subsidy for this line from this point, from this day forward. This joint benefit is also recognized in the fare policy that the board has adopted, recognizing that the whole region has to be involved in a network of mobility, and it can't be a disincentive about distance travel. The board has capped rail fare at $5.90. I know some of you think that's not necessarily a bargain, but what it means is a ride from this station to Roslyn would be a $5.90 ride. Anybody who chooses to ride further through the district and into Maryland does so at no additional cost. It works obviously the other way. People coming from Maryland and most of the district, by the time they reach Roslyn, have hit the cap fare, so they will incur no future additional cost going to Tyson's Corner. Many DC and Maryland residents now have an accessible and, I would argue, affordable one-seat ride to job opportunities in Tysons and Reston. I think this job access will be very important. For instance, to the district, I know the mayor is very interested in an aggressive effort to bring DC residents to the Tysons labor market. While there's plenty to celebrate today, we cannot rest on our laurels, if we have any. The region is forecast to add 700,000 new residents in the next decade. The system is at times bulging at the seams. All we have to do is realize how long it took us to get here today from the start, and how long it will take to bring additional capacity to those new residents who are not here yet. While the Metro Board is totally focused on fixing the system so that it is safe and reliable today, we are looking ahead to our long-term challenge, including the need for all 8-car trains on this system, which will enhance the utility of this line as well as all of the other lines in the system. It will also looking at increasing station capacity and an enhanced regional bus network. The Momentum strategic plan can take us to 2025 and beyond, so I ask that you join me today in celebrating the opening of the Silver Line with a pledge to support the Momentum strategic plan that will prepare the way for a new generation of riders. It's only our future and the future of our families. Thanks.
Good morning. I know I stand between you and the new service of the Silver Line, so we're not going to take a lot more time. I'm Kathy Hudgins, a member of the WMATA Board and Fairfax County Board, and I'm a resident of Reston, so I'll welcome you here to this new WMATA facility here at the Reston East Metrorail station. You know, as a member of a WMATA board, I want to convey that we recognize the political grit and steel, and we call it concrete, that's been expended to make this happen. We recognize all the work that's been done with so many, and we really want to thank all of you for participating in this opening and ribbon cutting, because it's really, really critical in terms of us defining the future of transportation and using this as a going forward measure for us. The teams have worked together from Maryland, Virginia, and the District of Columbia. And as a member of the Board of Supervisors and a director, I recognize that that is the collaborative nature that we need in getting all projects done. I want to thank Congressman Jim Moran. He took part of my notes here. But we're here in Reston, and these 5 stations, it was good though. It was good. These 5 stations really make a game changer for Fairfax County. I want to reference Bob Simon, and I reference a 1962 commission report when Bob Simon's plan was before the Board of Supervisors for approval. And that report said that if Fairfax County, in its long-term future, would continue to develop as Bob's plan was proposed, we would be able to provide for the economic development of the county, and we would be able to preserve open space that's needed for other places. Well, we're there now, and I think we can say we get it. And we thank Bob for that vision, because we sit here today at the end of the phase 1 in a community with over 60,000 residents and almost an equivalent number of jobs and a 30 live-work environment. That's really progress. And it's this that I call Reston as the place that's TOD without transit. Well, today we have transit here, and it means we will grow from here. But Tyson's is also going to develop. And as Mr. Downs has pointed out, Metro is key to our region. And yes, it's from Largo with my colleague, Mr. Nichols, all the way out to the Dulles Corridor. And it brings us that opportunity of synergy of live, work, play, and work beyond here. And that's what this is about. I took the opportunity of using a reference that the WMATA staff shared with me. And it was minutes from the October 17th, 1966, first WMATA Board of Directors meeting. And it referenced an area in the minutes that I think is very, very pertinent and has been consistent in the comments here. The Virginia Principal Director is quoted in the minutes, Mr. Rhodes, as follows. And the sentence picks up. He thought the board, and this is after all of the organization of work of the compact there, that the board should be aware that if we have to face the future, that we must face the future in the matter of the extension of the rapid transit system to connect Washington with Dulles and Friendship airports. He mentioned that the Cotton Bill, which provided for, and listen to the number, $100,000 to protect the right-of-way of the Washington Old Dominion Railroad, and that Virginia has already taken some action to protect the corridor leading to Dulles Airport. That's the visionary part. That's planning for the future. And that is what we must continue to do here. So, well, when many of us moved to Reston and bought a home, we were told, rail is coming. I don't think we thought it was going to be 48 years later, but it was coming. And it's because of the number of community activists and advocates who worked tirelessly during all of those decades to ensure that quality rail could come to the Dulles corridor. And they will now benefit from the choices to live, work, and play in this community and provide that opportunity to reach a region that thrives on that. I want to conclude that as a customer service chair of the WMATA board, I wish to ensure you that the Silver Line customers and all our rail, bus, and paratransit riders, that safety, reliability, and customer service are among our top priorities. As we invite everyone to take a moment to enjoy the ride on the new Silver Line, we look forward to improvement in services, most particularly the 7000 series cars, and you see one on display outside, designed with input from our customers, which offers safety and improvements, and new customer amenities, things that our customers have told us for so long that they want. We look forward to seeing not only these new cars in the system, but the ongoing improvements that we will make and the commitment to the 2025 momentum. I want to thank you and wish you have a great ride.